Secretary Stroul, you had indicated or talked about false narratives, and I think that's a very important subject to speak about. Nowhere is that more in evidence than at the United Nations, both in Geneva as well as in New York. I chaired a hearing earlier today called United Nations Bigotry Towards Israel, UNRWA, Anti-Semitism Poisons Palestinian Youth. And we did put a focus on how young people are being trained up to hate Jews, to hate Israel, and to hate us in those UNRWA camps. And we have provided, under the Biden administration, about $1 billion towards UNRWA and the entire operation. So I'm very, very concerned, as are the members of my committee when we met earlier today. The false narratives, though, we brought out one particular one. It's one of many. Francesca Albanese, who's the High Commissioner for Human Rights Special Rapporteur for Palestinian Territories, said that Israel has no right to defend itself. And she makes a bogus legal argument that somehow Article 51 does not apply and that they can't defend themselves. That kind of narrative, and there are many others like it, but she's one of the point people on this. Your thoughts on that? Secondly, if I could, is Gaza the harbinger of what a two-state solution would look like? I was on the White House lawn when Bill Clinton famously had both leaders of the PLO as well as Israel on that lawn. We were all hopeful that Oslo would lead to a positive, peaceful outcome. And yet we see a de facto two-state in Gaza. And what are they doing? I've read the Hamas charter of 1988 many times. It calls for killing every Jew, and it also calls for the end of Israel, eviscerating the entire nation. Your thoughts on that? Because I think while the two-state solution seemed to have merit, we all hoped, it seems to be something that has been profoundly discredited in modern times, especially now by Gaza.
Congressman, thank you for your question. You know, if we go back in time to the events in Gaza in 2006, 2007, Hamas essentially undertook a violent coup and took over and has run by brutal fiat ever since. So those 2 million plus Palestinians have really had no vote in the matter, certainly not since 2006. That would hardly qualify as a state in by anybody's reckoning. I think the Palestinian legitimate aspirations for statehood have been something that have been recognized now for decades by successive administrations, and we all feel, I say the we in a collective sense, having consulted with key Arab partners this past several weeks, there's a greater urgency than ever to take a negotiation forward after the conflict towards a Palestinian statehood, negotiating between the parties along the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, but something that will give the Palestinian people the governance, the self-governance that they deserve, and give them a chance to live next to Israel in a state of peace and mutual recognition.
With respect to both UNRWA and the two-state solution, what the position of the Department of Defense, first of all, is to support our colleagues at the Department of State. There's a difference between Hamas, a U.S.-designated foreign terrorist organization, and the Palestinian people, who absolutely deserve a state of their own, which would enable Israelis to live in a secure state, as well as for Palestinians. It is an area that we are constantly engaged in with our colleagues in the Israeli Ministry of Defense and the Israel Defense Forces.
Can I just ask you with regards to Francesca Albanese as one example? Again, she's the special rapporteur. She should be fired. When you say there, and I've gone over her other statements that have been made for quite a long time, and there were many others like her, particularly in the Human Rights Council realm, who are just totally, unambiguously anti-Semitic.
Well, I mean, the statements, as you've described, I mean, certainly are unacceptable from the U.S. perspective. If I could go back to UNRWA, Congressman, look, this has been a years-long effort, and it's something that we continue to apply ourselves to clear out, to bring to the attention of UNRWA, to clear out anti-Semitic or any other sort of incitement language in education materials. But I would also underline that right now, especially at this moment of crisis, UNRWA is the backbone of the strong UN-coordinated humanitarian response to the crisis in Gaza. And in any post-conflict setting, it will serve that
Again,
purpose
I'm
again.
out of time, but the
Yes.
textbooks and all the rest is all done by the PA. It's not done by the UN or us.
Yep.
And we're the major contributor.